Alexis, I'm so excited to meet you, by the way. My name is Deana, and I work with Nexus, obviously, and we're going to be talking to you about your awesome career and obviously SheTransacts. But before I go into all of that, can you please just tell me a bit more about you, as we're not in the same room, so it's a bit difficult to connect.
Absolutely. So I'm here in San Francisco and I'm originally from Chicago. So I'm from the Midwest, but I lived all over really with all my different companies. And even in my previous life when I was competing as an Olympic level ice dancer. So I love to travel. I love meeting people all over the world and connecting. But yeah, that's kind of a blend of some of the different experiences that I've had that have a very unique outlook on things for sure.
I'm so glad you brought up your previous life, as you mentioned it. When I was reading through a few bits of information, I was like, what? So can you help me connect the dots and tell me what happened and why? Did you walk away from it or did something happen? Tell me all about it.
Yeah, well, it's, like anything in life. I think especially now with the pandemic, people understand like life can be very unpredictable. So I grew up training as an Olympic level ice dancer. I mean, I didn't start thinking I wanted to go to the Olympics. I just loved skating. And really, I pursue whatever fulfills me the most and whatever is really exciting to me. And I had the fortunate opportunities to work my way up, and it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of discipline. And so there's actually a lot of parallels to becoming an entrepreneur. The hard work, the day in grind, getting up every time you fall down, because you're going to fall down a lot. You're going to fail continuously. And really setting those little goals to get to a bigger goal of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. All of that really felt very natural when I really became an entrepreneur. And of course, as a CEO, one of your primary jobs is fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
And as a figure skater, it's a very expensive sport. And so I was always out there in front of the grocery store selling my raffle tickets or whatever I had to do to make enough money so I could go to nationals and compete or whatever the next thing was that I needed. So I had a little bit of built-in experience even on the fundraising side as an athlete as well.
That's so cool. And then, so what happened? Did you kind of just call it quits on it, or what happened?
Yeah, so it was about 2010. And, I feel for all the athletes who, you have a very limited window of when you can compete, when you're at your prime to really get to that level. And my window was like right there. We were all ready. But my partner at that point was deported, and it was due to international politics. So things that were really outside of my control. So no matter how much planning and 25 years of training that you've done, those are things that you just have to realize are beyond your control. And in a way, of course, I'm a glass half full type of person. I think it opened up a whole new world of opportunity of like, what do I do now? Like this was what I was working on. And fortunately, my family always encouraged me to stay in school. I was one of the only ones who was at that level who wasn't homeschooled. And I'm so grateful that they did, even though there was a lot of resistance, because that really helped me with my French and economics background and international finance to pursue what my other passions were after the figure skating part of my life. So yeah.
I love it. That's so interesting because, as I said, it really stuck out for me when we were doing the research. I was like, Olympic level ice dancer.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. I was just really excited to learn about that.
Yeah, it's definitely, we all have really unique backgrounds, and you just have to embrace and bring those skills forward and then carry it to your next adventure.
Totally. So I have a guilty pleasure. I am absolutely obsessed with Shark Tank, like beyond obsessed. I don't know if you watch it too and if you like it.
Of course.
So obviously, as an entrepreneur, you're probably looking at it from a completely different perspective. So I'm watching it like, let me see what I can learn and let me see who Mr. Wonderful is going to rip today. But obviously, that's my only taste of entrepreneurship. I love watching that program, and there's so much involved that I couldn't even imagine like entering that realm. So please, Alexis, tell me a little bit more about what happened after you said, obviously, you left the ice skating to a different side. What happened? And tell me how that evolved and how you became an entrepreneur.
Well, I think there was an opportunity that I had where to reinvent myself, at that point. And I seized the day. So I started my first company, very first one, and I had my first angel investor, which I met in a Starbucks in Michigan. And I really was going out with just the idea of what I wanted to create and what I thought we could bring. And that company grew quite quickly and did quite well. And definitely, I wouldn't say my early experiences were like Shark Tank, but as I became an entrepreneur, that's when I experienced Shark Tank myself. And then it gave me these horrible like PTSD flashbacks of being a figure skater and having a cattle call. And you're being up there and you have to like put yourself on stage and really perform for the judges or the sharks, whoever that might be. So there definitely were some performance aspects of getting in front. But I would say it's like a love-hate, scenario, because it's so wonderful. My early investors were really there supporting in terms of the vision and the idea, and they knew me and my background, and that's all they needed. It was like, we know that you're going to focus, whatever obstacles come in your way, you're going to find a way through it. And that's all they needed. But as you go along as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of other things that come into play. And especially as you get in front of investors you don't know, or maybe sharks, like on Shark Tank, each investor has their own love language for what they love to invest in. And so you have to learn as an entrepreneur and how to communicate your vision and your story to what they are, of course, interested in. But you have to be authentic. You can't change who you are and you can't change your story, but there is an art to that. And that's something that was such a difficult thing to learn. It really makes you question, like, am I doing the right thing? How much can I change my pitch and still be who I am? So there's a whole evolution there that I think is really important as an entrepreneur. So okay, what do I stand for? What am I willing to judge in terms of the way that we talk about things? And then what is like, okay, that's too far. Now it's just not the right investor for me. So learning those things I think are really helpful so that when you end up in a room like Shark Tank, it's a room you want to be in, not a bloodbath of people that are just going to rip you apart, and it's not a good fit, and it just is a horrible experience. So it can be good or bad, but a lot of it depends on you to really, I think, identify which sharks or investors you want to be in front of.
Totally. And you mentioned something that here at Nexus we talk about all the time, and that is authenticity, because as you said, there is a level of adjusting yourself to suit investors or suit whoever you're in front of. If you're auditioning, if you're making music, this is something we have to go through. But really, how true are you being to yourself?
That's the number one thing. I think you don't have any regrets if you stay true to your values. And often those very difficult moments of when you're in a Shark Tank room, that was actually being in some of those Shark Tank rooms where it just didn't feel right. Like it wasn't aligning with my mission or my goals, or even deeper, like what our company represented and the culture we wanted to have. And those are some of the most beautiful moments. That is why we ended up pivoting and focusing on how can we create an environment to enable entrepreneurs to stay true to their values, be authentic, and really attract the right investors. So the pain of going through all that, the pain of being on stage and all the things that come with like being a female in that environment, all of these different levels that you experience going through it, it's really rewarding now to know that we're focusing on a solution to make that less painless, but more productive. Like it's still hard work. You can never get to the Olympics or get to your company being at whatever next stage you want to be at without the hard work. But there are a lot of things you can eliminate and a lot of pain along the way you could avoid. And that's what we wanted to focus on. Like how can we make this, it's already difficult enough. Let's not throw in more obstacles that are necessary.
Really, you've perfectly set me up for my next question. So thank you for that. Very easy for me. Tell me about SheTransacts. Tell us
Yeah.
about where the idea came from. You've already kind of given us a bit of a taster, but please, I'm so excited to learn more about it.
Yeah, so SheTransacts was really from all the pain of being a founder. I mean, it is 100% a platform that we created for founders by founders. And specifically, it started with female founders because that was the group that I am a part of. And what we realized is there were a lot of things that were involved in needing to like raise money for our companies to get it off the ground, but it was taking up so much time that it was actually negatively impacting our company. So just as things are growing and doing well, you need to go out and fundraise, and it's a good time to fundraise because your company's doing well. But then you do start this process. It's so inefficient. It takes up 100% of your time as a CEO. So you're not focused on your company. And so, of course, the traction starts going down. So it's like, how do we get out of this situation? How do we keep the focus on our companies, what we're building, that we've got this momentum, we've got this traction, but still be able to fundraise? And so that was the moment that we were like, okay, there's got to be a better way. So SheTransacts is basically, it is a platform that allows us to do the due diligence up front. We allow founders to see what they're being judged upon, or the criteria that investors are interested in, and in an anonymous way, in a way that you can be safe, you can fail. If you don't pass in a due diligence, it's okay. It's not like you got in front of the investor and that was the only 5-minute first impression you had. You could do it on your own first, work it out, fix it, get the support of other female founders instead of competing against each other on stage like at Shark Tank. Yeah. It's one founder at a time. But the reality of the startup world is you're often on stage with 3 or 4 other companies. And so there's much more of like a gladiator mentality of watching us all fight for, the investment dollars. So we wanted a more supportive ecosystem. And that's really what we focused on, is let's make it more efficient. Let's do the due diligence up front, and then we'll organically connect with the right people, because that's where we're going to really be able to align with the right investor.
I love that so much, because obviously I'm not an entrepreneur, so I'm a bit fluffier, and I always think there's room for everybody. But obviously the reality is, in business, it is dog eat dog world sometimes, right? But it's so lovely when I was reading up on that to find a platform that helps, but also is trying, I'm not going to say you're eliminating it, but just being like, hey, there's enough room for everyone. We just need to allocate the right people to the right investors.
That's absolutely right. I think that's some of the good things that I brought from all my skating world training was, you don't go to an Olympic training center to hurt the competitor next to you. You actually, by putting your blinders on and focusing on what you're doing, you push each other to be the best you could possibly be. And so we had to create that Olympic vibe of, it's all about you being the best possible founder you could be and getting your company to that next level, but being next to other founders. So it kind of pushes you and motivates you, but we're not competing directly with one another. Yeah. We're cooperating and helping. And that's what's so cool about a training center, is the coaches, the nutritionist, the psychologist, everybody is there to say, hey, this is something we see that could be improved. Let's work on it together. And then you level up and you track and you monitor, and then you get there and you end up being this amazing Olympic athlete in the end. But it takes a team. And so we wanted to bring that team back. Let's not throw us to the sharks. let's bring the team, the dream team that will actually make sure, because there's so many problems in the world that need solving.
Totally.
Let's focus on that.
I love this. Honestly, such a wonderful idea. And I know you're drawing a lot on your experiences from when you were an iStancer and everything you've learned along the way. For people that are watching this and maybe have an idea but are unable to go, okay, this is my great idea, I think it's going to work. What would you say, as you've been through this numerous times, is the most important part when you're at that stage?
I think when you first have an idea, the most important part, to be honest, is realize it's a very long path. So it's be honest with yourself about how hard it's going to be. And the reason I say that is, it's very much like, you want to know that you're going to fall a lot, and that's okay. Yeah. So I think whenever you're starting a new idea, go out with humility and an open mind to be able to learn. Like, Remember what it is that you're feeling right now. Journal it, do a video, do a vlog about why you're passionate about this, because during the really hard times of your startup and your company, you might want to watch those videos or reread that journal entry to keep that fire alive. If you cannot tell me after 2 hours of me questioning, why do you want to do this? If you don't feel like you could still be like, I just have to do it, I just need to fix this, like, this is my passion. If you can't justify it after 2 hours of somebody telling you like, oh, I don't think it'll work, or why should you do this, then you probably shouldn't. You have to be ready to fight for what you believe in. Certainly. And really get to what it is your passion is. And that's okay if you get through maybe a couple hours of having a friend question you about everything and you start to question yourself. That's okay. What can you learn from that? Because maybe it's a little bit of a version of that idea. The whole thing is just identify what you're really passionate about, because that is what's going to get you through, and that's what's going to make you successful.
Yeah. Alexis, just out of interest, are you a CEO, entrepreneur / life coach? Because your advice right now is super motivating.
No, but I think it's just that openness. I learn from every person I meet. I learn from you, even the questions you're asking. I think you just really need to be continuously learning, evolving and changing, and you discover more of who you are. But really seeing the world through other people's eyes, I think, is the best thing you could have as an entrepreneur, because then you're not just stuck in your own world saying, hey, this is what I think the solution is, and forcing it upon the world. Yeah. You get to hear the feedback, kind of like an audience. Like, if you're in front of a crowd, or if you're at a great event, you can feel it. And I think that kind of invisible, energy that goes back and forth, yeah. There's something there, but I'm definitely not a life coach.
Well, I think maybe look into it, okay? Or maybe you should just go give a TED talk or something, because you've got the right vibe for it.
Well, yeah, thank you. I'll take that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So obviously, SheTransacts is not a place for me to just rock up and be like, I think I have ideas. You mentioned you need to put in the work, and then obviously it just makes the process easier once you're at the right stage. Yeah. What I wanted to talk about is, obviously, the pandemic has changed everything. It was super unpredictable. Literally, we had no clue. How has SheTransacts been able to support people during this time, and how's it been for you as well?
Yeah, I'm so grateful that we've been able to create the platform that we have during the pandemic, because getting to meet people, obviously, that's been an issue. And also feeling very alone. Founder isolation is a real thing. It affects a lot of people. It's not just, a lot of people are just dealing with depression or other mental, frustrations. And, there's so many layers to being isolated. When you're working on something so difficult, it can really be devastating, and I think having the ongoing support, the way that we can do it is really asking a few questions every day. Iggy is our AI, so Iggy will always be just really conversational, making it feel as human as possible. Yeah. So you don't want to feel like you're talking to a computer. And, just from those very honest answers, that they're safe. You're not having to say this in front of an investor. You can be really open with yourself. And then based on those answers, our system's going to identify, okay, then you may want to start here, or here's some options for you that you might want to go. And a lot of times as founders, we don't know the next step to take. And we spend a lot of time then doing things that we know about, but we're missing all the things that actually will help us get to that next step. Mm-hmm. And so that's really a great resource for anybody right now who's in lockdown. You have an idea, you could come on as a dreamer saying, I don't have a company yet, I just want to figure it out. And based on like your answers, it's like a choose your own adventure, where based on your answers, the system will start to give you options and guiding you, but it'll be totally unique to you. So your adventure will be different than mine. You could change it any time. We think evolution is really important. So the platform is really a fun, easy way, stress-free. If you want to be on it all day long, you can, but really 5 minutes a day. I think that's the thing, is don't pressure about it. It'll naturally come as you start to think through the right things and realize what you need to do next.
That is honestly so cool. And I've never heard of anything like this before as well. Obviously, I'm not in the business world, so I don't know if there is anything similar to this, but for me, I'm just like, this is such a brilliant idea.
It's, you know, it's what we wish we always had. So when this started, we didn't want to create this. We were actually hoping we would just talk to enough founders and enough, you know, people in the startup community say, I was coming at it saying, okay, I did this in Olympic athlete. I did this with my previous companies and I've been a successful entrepreneur, but now I'm a tech CEO and maybe I just don't know what to do. And so I was just looking for the resource myself. And when we didn't find it, and a lot, like over 1,000 other founders, female founders who this is not their first rodeo, they didn't have it either. And we realized this is like a missing link. This is something we need, whether you're just starting with the idea or you're much later and you're, you know, pitching your company to Series A or Shark Tank or crowdfunding, whatever it is, you need this assistance and this ongoing support.
Yeah. Well, massive congratulations for actually creating it, because honestly, it's something that I think, as you said, trying to eliminate that fear or even being in front of the wrong investor that can actually knock you. I've seen some horrific Shark Tank episodes where they've walked out and I'm like, that person's soul has been sucked out of them. How do they pick themselves up? So creating an environment, honestly, massive congratulations. I'm sure you're so proud of it and I'm so intrigued by it, which is why I have so many different questions.
They're great questions. And, you know, that's what it's all about, is ask as many questions as you can. And really, hopefully the platform, as we get it out to the world and more people realize that this does exist, it's a totally different, we're not telling you who to be. We're letting you figure it out and we're letting you really discover that, because I think the best ideas in life and opportunities in life come from, you know, that it's not someone telling you who you should be, and that we want to be authentic and have all of our leaders be authentic. I think it's going to really be exciting to see where all the SheTransacts founders go in the next 10 years and how much positive impact that they create in the world.
Totally. And what is next for SheTransacts? So are things easing up a little bit in terms of people meeting? How is it where you are, first of all?
Yeah, here in San Francisco, I mean, we are open. We can go out. Restaurants, actually, I think a few days ago, they just lifted the mandatory face mask covering. So it's exciting to see, but we're highly vaccinated here. Our percentages are very high, so it's safe for us. But I think the behaviors have changed. People have gotten really accustomed to like being able to have meetings on Zoom, and now they've connected with communities all over the world. Like we're connecting with you guys, and I think they don't want to let that up. You know, it's like there'll be some meeting in person, but really it's so much easier and fun to like have this virtual community now with really aligned people. You don't have to rely on just the founders in your neighborhood. You know, now we have a whole world of founders that I can talk to every day. So I think it's going to be an interesting blend. You know, it'll be fun to watch and see how it pans out.
Yeah, definitely. You're so right, though, about creating this international community. I've been speaking with people from places I never even imagined I would, and wouldn't have got the opportunity. We'd have to wait to be in the same city at the same time, which is so difficult. So actually, as you said, it probably works out better for your platform.
Yeah, it works out better, I think, for a lot of founders. And we're seeing a lot of underrepresented founders like from all over Europe and other parts of Asia, communities that maybe didn't have a strong support system. Like I said, I had to move to San Francisco so the other founders don't have to. But that was a reality. You know, if you wanted to pursue a certain type of business, you'd have to move to San Francisco or Austin or, you know, one of these, or London. You'd have to move there to really do it. And not everybody has the opportunity or the means to be able to do that. And honestly, they shouldn't have to. You know, some of their solutions, it's better they stay where they are and they solve the problems that they need there. So I think it's exciting. We're going to help a lot of founders around the world who probably so many amazing ideas sit there because they just don't have access to that world, and we can bring that. So we're excited about it.
I'm excited about it. I'm not even involved. I'm very excited about it. And I guess my final question then is, what advice would you give to anyone that might see this or hear this and be in any sort of different stage when it comes to an idea or thinking about getting involved? What advice would you give to people inspired by your story?
Yeah, absolutely. I think number one is just know that your experience, your life experience is so valuable. Even you remind me that like, oh, this is so interesting. But even I sit there and go, oh, what does figure skating have to do with being an entrepreneur? Like we always see ourselves, I think sometimes like we don't see the connection right away. And I would encourage you to really embrace all your life experiences, no matter how big or how small. It could be just one person that you talk to that like changed the way you look at the world, that gave you that aha moment. And I think you need to start to really own the moments that you've had in your life and really value those, because that is what makes you unique as a founder, as an entrepreneur. No matter what you're doing, you have to be who you are and you have to tell your story. And that's going to inspire everybody else to do the same. So just don't change who you are to fit a mold. I would really encourage you to keep your uniqueness. That is what's going to help you get through, but also stand out. And more importantly, show people who you are so you attract the right people. If you start changing who you are, you may not like who you attract.
Alexis, life coach, part-time life coach, and CEO of Entrepreneur. Thank you so much. Honestly, absolute pleasure speaking with you. And I think what you've created, I know you know how amazing it is, but from a perspective of, so I didn't even know this kind of thing was available. And I joke about Shark Tank, but I've always like wanted to create something, and honestly, just knowing that this is around, like it's just brilliant. So massive congrats to you and all your team.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Well, we are happy to take any of your ideas. Get on there with a dreamer card. We'll get you there. If you want to be Shark Tank, if you want to be anywhere, I think you'll find the right path for you, and that's the most important thing. But go for it. Definitely. This is the time to reinvent yourself. So it's an exciting time for entrepreneurs.
Love it, Alexis. Thank you so much. And what time is it where you are right now?
We are at 11:40, so just quarter to noon.
Oh, okay, cool. Have you got anything fun planned today?
Well, today I'm just enjoying my daily drink. I've gotten off of caffeine, which has actually been really good. That was a pandemic win for sure. And so I've got my barley tea, which I absolutely love. It's a Japanese tea. I presented in Tokyo at a big startup event. Yeah. And so I just got hooked on some of these teas, and with honey and with oat milk. So I'm feeling very good. So besides that, I've got meetings for the rest of the day, talking to some amazing founders. And then by the end of the evening, we always have a firm stop at 5 when it switches to just dinner and home mode and enjoying, a nice flick or watching, fun shows from all around the world, because really we have to find that work-life balance here. So yeah, just a few more hours of fun meetings and then a nice relaxing evening.
Yeah, nice. I don't know, I'm giving party hands. You more mean just from work. Well, I hope you had a lovely day. Honestly, you've put me in the best mood. It's been so lovely to connect with you, and best of luck with everything that you've got planned for the future, and hopefully our paths will cross again.
I'm sure they will. Anytime you're in San Francisco, let us know, drop us a line, and we'd be happy to show you around.
I will take you up on that offer. I've got this on camera, so you can't take it back now.
Welcome.
I'll hopefully speak to you soon.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you about everything.
Thank you. You too. Have a lovely day.
You too.
Bye.